Morning, friends. We are a very, very tiny group. I had a number of last-minute cancellations just now for today and some maybes who aren't here. So it's us, and at least it is for this moment, in case I don't know if others will join us still, but we were to have China Bear and Evelyn and Eileen and perhaps Rhonda and maybe Barbara. And so I'm just going to put up the words for Moda Ani. And we have this beautiful treat this morning of Rivka, this evening for you, Carola. Rivka's going to teach us. And so I'm going to turn on. Actually, we are recording, looks like. So others will be able to later appreciate, and many have assured me that they do, and look forward to these recordings. So let me put up the words here. I know you probably don't really need these so much, but here they are. And I'd like to share with you Joey Weisenberg's beautiful melody for this morning. So we can do this together. Since Rivka is going to be sharing with us your morning blessing practice, I thought we would begin with a Moda Ani. Here is Rhonda. Yay, Rhonda. Welcome, Rhonda. We are a tiny pod of sisters this morning, this evening. And we're just going to start with the Moda Ani. And this is Joey Weisenberg's melody, which it's a little more mournful, but I love the depth of it. So feel free to sing this with me as you hear it, and move to it also if you wish. Moda ani lefanecha ruach hai v'kayam. Moda ani lefanecha Ruach Chaim V'Kayam. So that's the first part, and Eileen is joining us for a little bit here. Good morning, Eileen. Welcome. We know you're here just for a short time, and we are welcoming the day with a Moda Ani. Joey Weisenberg's beautiful. Let's do that first part of it again. Moda ani lefanecha ruach hai v'kayam. Moda ani lefanecha ruach hai v'kayam. Shechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla. Shechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla. Rabba emunatecha. Moda ani lefanecha ruach hai וקיים עוד אני לפניך רוח חי וקיים שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה נשמתי בחמלה שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך. One more time, the first part. מודה אני לפניך רוח חי וקיים עוד אני לפניך רוח חי וקיים. So welcome again, and so grateful to be here with you. I know, Eileen, you're here for just a little while, right? And we're grateful that you could be here. I think because you're here for just a short time, I'm going to move right into our check-ins, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to just dive in and arrive before Rivka offers your teaching. Morning blessings this morning. So, and just take a moment to receive the space and stillness and see what might want to bubble to the surface by way of some essence. We had that beautiful, last month when we were together, beautiful teaching that you brought, Eileen, and your love of and sourcing in folk dance and the dances of other cultures as well as Israeli folk dance. It seems like 6 months, not 1 month ago. Let's just breathe together for a moment. So we've been to the mountain since we were last together. We completed the Omer period for this year. We stood, sat, danced, quaked at the foot of Mount Sinai together. And we've been through a war in Israel and Palestine, and the terrible upsurge of COVID in India and other parts of Asia. There's a lot that the world has gone through since we've last been together. I invite you to just see what is essential that you can bring to our circle. We know we love each other. We would love to catch up completely on each other's lives, but let's just find the essence of what is present in your body, your heart today to bring to the group so that we can have some silence around that and be with your ikar, your essence for today. So, would anyone like to begin? Yehudis.
Yes, hello, sisters. And I am so sorry, my mistake in kind of double booking and being a little mindless lately. Um, Support from you all. I uh, my heart is breaking. It's been terrible. On my professional listserv, I'm trying to sort of get off these things. Um, it started with a kind of a rejoinder from a Palestinian psychoanalyst who just attacked me and kind of everything I said. I mean, she was coming out with all the rhetoric of social justice, but we were all white oppressors, and nothing I could say made a difference. If I said this issue was really complex, she'd say, "Oh, complex is just one of those words used to kind of whitewash the real simplicity of the whole thing, and you all use words like that." Anyway, I'm sort of reeling from it. And in this professional, a group of us have gotten together of women, of Jewish psychoanalysts, psychologists, and we're starting a sort of a petition against anti-Semitism and beginning to organize ourselves, which on the one hand we feel is more polarizing and maybe more of the problem, and yet that voice is not heard. So I find myself late night emails, just signing petitions and shocked by how quickly this conflict escalated on many listservs. It's about the whole language and rhetoric of anti-colonialism and what it leaves out as much as what it puts in. And I had no desire to get back. And I was on vacation in the desert and couldn't stop answering emails. So I find myself part of a group that's kind of trying to do something about it now. And it's pretty hard. I'll just say one more thing. Always felt that when I heard people say we have no partner for dialogue, and I would think, oh, that's impossible. Of course, there's always partners for dialogue. And I'm beginning to feel that hopelessness. So very heavy hearted about all of it.
Shimati.
Shamati. Dibati.
Shimati. Yeah, let's just take a breath in between our check ins. Thank you
Mm,
for, and just to support you and feel your support
mm.
in this in this very difficult work and challenging time.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if someone else feels moved to jump in, yes, Rivka.
So just holding you, dear Eileen, and I mean, really in a deep way. And blessings that the spaciousness will return to your heart. I am just coming out of a very intense semester. So what I'm bringing to this is gratitude, like as I just feeling in my body, such gratitude this morning, a sense of relief of sending off a very large, the longest final exam I've ever taken in my life, and a class on life cycle that just was deep and intense and emotionally challenging, and just making me more and more the vessel that I'm supposed to be. So it's just great to see each of you here, and I just feel such gratitude to an opportunity to offer some teaching after just being a student in a huge way. So, deep arti.
Shamati, Shamanu. Just another breath to receive and hold. The student and the teacher. So who would like to share your voice? Rhonda.
Congratulations, Rivka, and I resonated with what you were saying, Eileen. We had some friends over last night who were very involved in the Democratic Party, and this, the places where I've felt support for being Jewish don't feel so supportive now, and particularly not the Democratic Party. And one of the lessons for me for the last year is letting go of my assumptions about, everything, just everything. And I won't go into all the many dichotomies that are hard to hold. But what's most in the foreground for me this week is my mother passed June 14th last year, and we're having a memorial for her on Friday. And so it's been a whole year of moving through that grief cycle, and this feels like a completion that didn't happen the way I would have wanted last year because of COVID. So we actually had the opportunity to do internment of her ashes and have a little gathering of the family. So it's kind of bittersweet. My father, who's 96, is improving somewhat in health, which is amazing. So I guess that's my theme here, holding all these different worlds and living in a lovely bubble that has been very supportive for me, and feeling all there's so much out there that's so distressing. So the Barti.
Shamanu, Shamati.
Thank you.
Just take a moment to hold Rhonda and hold your mom. Soul. It's been on its journey this past year. Thank you. So we got two diagonally duking it out on my screen here. So Michelle, why don't you go, and then Carola.
It is so wonderful to be in this space with all of you and to listen to your joy, Rivkala, and what's going on with your mom and your life, Rhonda and Eileen. I tend to straddle a lot of worlds, and I participate in so many of them. I am finding all of the violence and the chaos, not only in myself, but external to me, disruptive and confusing and wonderful. As you know, I'm part of the women's community. I married an incredible man after knowing him for 6 weeks, and after living with him for 18 years, I realized I'm a lesbian. So we no longer live under the same roof, but we are incredibly close. And now that COVID is over, I get to go to his home. We live in the same city, and we work jigsaw puzzles together. And my in-laws, through that part of my life, love me, and I adore them. And then I come back to my home, where I am who I am. And I am a Jewish woman who was raised in Los Alamos, where there were 35 Jewish families, and my dad, when he married after my mother died, married a Baptist woman. And that was the end of my childhood when I was like 17. And I've come back to Judaism, having lived in New Mexico, and calling myself Jewish and not really knowing what that means, with my Lutheran father of my children, and my daddy who married a Baptist, and me who was raised in Los Alamos with the word "you're Jewish," but no real definition for that except that I'm not Christian. And I'm in this world right now, listening to the various labels that I have fighting with each other and trying to clarify within myself who I am. And that's why I come here, because this is one of those spaces where I am intimate with other people who love me. Thank you. Thank you for accepting who I am in this group. I appreciate it.
Shamanu, Shamati. Just take a moment to breathe and hold you, Michelle, in all of the confusions and the clarities, the joy and the questioning. Thank you. Carola.
Hello, everyone. I had a lovely, quiet, easy day. The sun is out here warming after a very cold period. And I am very pleased to join Bonnie Bainbridge class, where the focus, for at least as I receive it, is a resting heart. And really let your heart rest in between the lungs and the chest and the whole body and being supported. And that to me is such a dear practice at the moment, and to a sort of inner anchor, or inner anchor with all the turmoil in the world and whatever. And I like to share two things. The other day I woke up and the first thing I hear myself say, what shall I put on today? Like putting on dresses. And then I realized that is maybe my mantra of each day, all my life. You know, that the first thing I do is tune in the weather, the environment, the day, and see what I do. And then how do I beautify? What do I put on? Which color? Which combination? So it's intriguing to allow myself to feel that simple thing. What do you wear today? What do you put on today? That dressing with beauty and beautifying has much more deeper meaning than just what clothes I wear at the moment. So that's one thing. And the other thing is in a survey of Tricycle, the magazine I'm subscribed, and they asked feedback, and then they gave me a list of categories: Black, white, Asian, African. And then I thought, what am I? And inside, I feel a colorful human being, not identified, not even the Jewish identity as a social mask or presentation. So I got so shocked to realize that this categorization is coming from how I am seen, has nothing to do with how I experience myself. I don't experience myself as white at all. And the history is that I either was pushed out, I was either not enough white enough or too white to join in. Well, anyway, so I think this is a dominant phenomena at the moment of this categorization, while my inside world and peacemaking and coming out and sharing my heart has a total different vibration. So I've spoken.
Mati, Shamanu. Let's take a moment to, again, to hold that richness. The phrase Hod v'Hadar came to me as you were speaking.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I too am feeling this ripping, kind of tearing. And on the one hand, the challenge of Shavuot, which I think I may have shared with some of you, of being with my Taproot community and the committee of the cohort who was leading a ritual for Shavuot, deciding that they wanted to focus it entirely on the Nakba and Palestinian liberation. And my job became to try to support what they wanted to do and yet hold this piece of knowing the depth of our Torah, which has not yet ever been realized in the world. And as you were each speaking and what you said, Carola, just now, I've been preparing to teach a class on an introductory class to Jewish mysticism for a Reform congregation in the LA area. And so I've had to get much clearer on the contextualization of everything that we do in terms of the whole history of mysticism in the Jewish path, and also what is mysticism as opposed to, because it's obviously interwoven. And I would say that what you just spoke, Carola, was so succinctly true about what I've been reading, that the mystic is one who has no boundaries, who has no labels and definitions. The mystic is open to crossing the boundaries and making the unifications and perceiving the oneness. And the normative world is a lot about distinctions and categories and identities and where do I live, where do I fit in, where's my home, how am I over against you. They're both true when we're human. So how do we mediate, how do we work with that? And I'll just say that one of the ways that I have... Are you about to leave us? Have a wonderful brunch. It was great that you could be here for a little while. And
I wrote it in the chat. Thank you so much for letting me come on. I'm so annoyed with myself for having done this. And blessings, Rivka. And my sisters, I said I will surely watch the recording. So it's important to me and Diane, especially the teachings you're about to give. I'll get later on to fellow mystics.
And so just to finish that thought, after really kind of breaking my teeth on a week of immersing myself in reviewing the history of the Nakba and that challenging time, and when I studied the history of the State of Israel in rabbinical school, a semester where I sat in my car and wept after every class. We did, I thought, a lovely ritual, and there was teaching, and we weren't able to offer what I had hoped. Bert was going to do a teaching on all the places in the Torah that talk about welcoming and treating justly and equally the quote ger, which is usually translated as stranger or alien, but there are a number of scholars who believe that the ger actually was referring to the indigenous people in the land that the people would be coming into, that we're supposed to live as neighbors and include in whatever of the Jewish Israelite ritual life that they wanted to be included in. Yes, so after moving through that, which was very challenging, I was able to connect with the Abrahamic Reunion, who for the past couple of weeks have been doing a prayer vigil for the Holy Land every morning. In California, it's at 8 in the morning. Today was the last day, but they'll be doing it on a weekly basis now. A weekly basis on... I knew there was somebody else who was supposed to be here. Hi, Ahuva. We're just finishing our check-in. So I'll finish up and then I'll make some space for you to say hello to us. I don't know why I speak louder when I'm speaking. I feel like I have to yell at you because you're so far away over there on the screen. Anyway, it was just finishing up about the Abrahamic Reunion. Every Thursday morning now, they'll be having a prayer vigil. It's different times in different parts of the world, but 8 a.m. in California. It's just 15 minutes, but about 100 people sometimes from all over. And Gaston, who's the director or one of the board members and I think executive director now of Abrahamic Reunion, has just gone back to Israel to help weave the culture back together after the intense splits that were exposed, similar to the way intense splits were exposed here, have been in the last year exposed, the injustices, the ongoing endemic racism that has torn this country apart, and kind of asphalted over it, but the cracks and the tears and the rips are still underneath that surface. So it's reassuring to know that there are many grassroots efforts happening in Israel-Palestine right now. I also have listened to Combatants for Peace and a couple of folks from Gaza talking about their experience, and so I think it's a time to do a lot of listening and questioning, and at the same time to know that, and together we've done a lot of work, mystical work together. we've nourished our inner mystics, and we've created that web together, and also each of us is part of other webs, overlapping webs of people who are holding this vision of oneness, not in place of acting in the world, but to support our action in the world. And for me, it doesn't necessarily make the pain less, but it helps with the confusion when I hold it that way. I can be clearer in my pain and I can practice with the pain and with the heartbreak. I think something set me off yesterday morning. I know what it was. I'm taking a little longer, but I'm taking my teacherly prerogative here. I got to attend. I've been going sometimes to Shabbat services or holiday services at B'nai Jeshurun in New York City, and gradually they're starting to have some people in the sanctuary. They have a very beautiful Zoom service. It's well produced, so even though the leaders are all spread out in the sanctuary, it looks like they're standing next to each other, and they have musicians. Beautiful, beautiful music. If you ever get a chance, it's just really early on the West Coast. It's Shabbat services start at 6:30 in the morning, but I'm able to get some of it. And it was a bar mitzvah yesterday.
Mm.
The young man with long curly hair down to here, and his family was in the sanctuary. You know, people are masked when they're not in their, but when they stood together as a family, they unmasked. And he gave this beautiful, wonderful little drash, and I just tuned in time for his haftarah and his drash. And afterwards, I just was sobbing and sobbing. I came down, Bert was downstairs, and I just went down, and I just was uncontrollably sobbing, just realizing all that has not been possible in this past year, and how we've done our best to, pivot and adjust and find ways to connect and keep ourselves nourished and alive as best we can. And there's just been a lot missing. So deep RT. So
Monty.
we'll take a moment of silence and then some space for Ahuva. And Ahuva, even though I went on and on, I asked people to just find the ikar of this last month for you. We've talked about our experiences of the shatterings of what's been happening, our time of Shavuot, the war in Israel-Palestine. So let's take a moment of silence, and I'll receive your support. Thank you. So, Ahuva.
First of all, good morning, everyone. I spaced out today, but what I was doing was listening to they have a new program on NPR called Throughline, where they go back over the history of some issue that's going on now and give a presentation about the background. And today was about the background of the state of Israel and leading up to the current situation. And mostly the discussion was about the basically the colonialist idea and the fact that the United States keeps on supporting Israel no matter what it does. And it was presented by a historian who is a Palestinian. And so it came from that perspective. And it was really hard for me to listen to, I have to say, because it was talking about it from that side. And it wasn't dismissing the other side completely, but it was talking about the unfairness. And I have had a problem with the unfairness all along. And so I'm very, very heartbroken about the whole thing. And I don't know really, I worry a lot about anti-Semitism. My son-in-law, who's a rabbi, who is very calm about things. I've never seen him so upset because he feels really threatened, and that Jews in the United States are being threatened by what's going on. And I'm just worried, and I'm also like, I want to hide under a blanket. Really, that it's part of what's going on for me is like, I cannot take one more thing, you know. But the other main thing that's going on for me is body stuff. I had 2 wonderful weeks visiting my daughter and grandkids in Seattle, and I've been in a lot of pain since I came home, and I don't have a solution, but I'm now looking at spinal surgery because I can't see how it's ever going to resolve itself without that. And it's just very discouraging, and it's painful, and I'm tired of the whole damn thing. So I'm sorry, I'm not presenting a more happy and delighted viewpoint to the world, but this is how it is for me.
Shamati. Let's take a moment to send you some good energy and some
Thank
support,
you.
just in silence. And maybe coming out of this, we can just reprise, sing again the Moda Ani, just bringing up that gratitude as we're going to move into some morning blessing practice with Rivka. So it's just the Moda Ani lefanecha, ruach chai v'kayam, shechazarta b'nishmati b'chemla, rabba imunatecha. Just waking up those gratitude taste buds in your body. Doesn't mean we turn away from the pain, the confusion, and the breakage, and the sadness, the grief, but we hold it in a matrix of gratitude and compassion for all that we have, and particularly for the aliveness of our neshamot, our souls. Moda ani lefanecha, ruach chai v'kayam. 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 Shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla, nishmati b'chemla. Shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha. Moda ani lefanecha, החי וקיים עוד אני לפניך רוח חי וקיים רוח חי וקיים רוח חי וקיים. So take it away, Rivka.
Thank you, Rabbi Diane. So Diane suggested in preparation for this that I would share first a little bit, I'll give you a little introduction as to how this morning blessing practice developed and what is kind of underneath it. So I'll take a little bit of time to share that. Many, many years ago, when Rabbi Aryeh Hirschfield of blessed memory was the rabbi of Panay Or here in Portland, Oregon, he used to do a lot of the morning blessings with a little bit of movement. And he, knowing that I was an embodier of blessings and practice, he tasked me with leading them at high holidays. So this had to be, I don't know, in the mid 2000s. And so it started with that. And, I took on some of what he used to do, and then it started to develop. And then when I came into the embodied program, it just started to deepen in such a huge way. It's become a daily practice. It's like, I don't drink coffee, but it's my cup of coffee or it's my cup of tea. It's a sense of grounding and opening the channels to just really to presence, to be present, and it has also given me a sense of well-being and healing and awareness, like in my body and really in all four worlds of my being. So even though the morning blessings begin in the world of Asiya, and it is a physical practice, as we know, in each of the worlds, there's the worlds within each of the worlds. So it's this opportunity to check in, how what's my emotional temperature, what's going on in my mind or in my, my thought processes, how am I connecting to spirit? And just listening to everybody speaking today, what you were saying, Diana, about, what we do to support our action in the world, that this, for me, that this practice is, it's the strengthening of my own clay kodesh, my own holy vessel, so that whatever is coming through, whether it's the heartbreak, the longing, the joy, the grief, the love, whatever it is, that this is something that really keeps me deeply connected to within my own being, within the divine presence within my being, with the divine presence that is out there in the world. I will just say that this morning when I was doing the practice, not just this morning, but all the talk about Israel, there are two blessings that are in here about making me part of the people of Israel, and being, and that strength. And, I'm just really looking at it deeply as God wrestlers, rather than us and them or something. So that real God wrestling that we all do. It's just this enormous gratitude practice. The morning blessings are called Nisim B'chol Yom, the miracles of every day. So they really are this, as you were saying, Diane, a matrix of gratitude and aliveness, you know, that's coming through us. So I think that's all I'm going to say as an introduction. It's something that continues to evolve, and I'm going to share it with you. At some point I will send you some sort of written something. I was looking at what I have written on it, and like I said, it's always evolving. It's just like when the Torah was written, it was canonized, you know, suddenly it, you know, we look at it as that's it, but we know there's much more. So this is a gift to you, and in any way that you can use it in your own life for your own holy vessel, please do. I'm going to adjust the camera and stand back so you can see my feet. I do these practices standing. You can do it standing, you can do it sitting. Please honor your body, you know, your body's way, as we say in Nia. So that's what we're going to do. And let me know if, hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to be standing back a little bit.
Just going to suggest that we might pin you or make it speaker view so you can see on Rivka, so you can see better.
Okay. So you can see my whole body and you can hear me? Okay, great. So again, with great gratitude to Diane, to Reb Aryeh, to all of you who've helped me to, you know, create this. This is not something, this is something that has just come through. And again, at Rabbi Diane's suggestion, we're going to actually begin with a polarity balance, because this is actually part of my morning practice that I've incorporated. And so we're going to start with this. One of the things I like to do is I actually like to hit the soles of my feet like 3 or 4 times. I got this, I think, from Qigong many years ago, as a way to just wake up that connection through the soles of the feet and the earth. So please feel free to do that. And then feeling that sense of connection, your feet can be just a comfortable, you know, hip width distance apart. And sensing your breath. Breathing and being breathed by presence, by that divine spark within you and around you. And so we'll start first with a review of that flower of life that we did back in November and December, where it was a figure 8, where you would start to shift to the ball of one foot toward the toes. So I'm doing that on my right foot and then shifting back to that heel of the same foot. And then shifting to the ball, going through that to the ball of the foot and back. And then just making that figure 8 as you continue in your own way of sensing that figure 8 at the base of the pelvis that's kind of initiated through the feet and through the earth. So we're already connecting with Ima Adama, the earth, the Shekhinah energy. And you can continue that figure 8 and then taking your fingers, your hands, closing them together and just crossing and breathing into this experience. So we've got the earth, that figure 8, and the crossing of the connection in the brain, breathing. And if you're able to, you can reverse the movement of the direction of your feet and pelvis, of that figure 8 in the pelvis, and then reverse the hands. So crossing the other way. Breathing. And then coming back to center, and we also did the figure 8 front to back where it crossed in the perineal area. And I take my hand to my frontal cortex and the hand to that more primitive area of the brain back here. And as I'm balancing above in the head, I'm again now rocking kind of toes to heels and just imagining that figure 8 through the perineal area. And again, if you want, if you're able, you can switch hands, right? Your other hand to the base of the front and the other hand to the base of the skull. And if your body allows to reverse the direction of that figure 8, and if not, it's fine. Just noticing this connection, again, drawing up from the earth, right through that perineal center, through the spine, right through the head. And then coming to stillness, and the hands come out toward the ears, right? And just breathing on either side of the ears and just breathing into this. And then the last part of the polarity balance is when the arms, the forearms, elbows come together as much as possible and the hands open up. And in this moment, this is that moment of that holy vessel of blessing, that we are not only praising the Holy One, holy oneness, but we are the vessel for praising. And then releasing that down and just envisioning the Yud He, the Vav He of your body. We've been playing with the different configurations of the 4-letter name, but for now, in this moment, I invite you to allow that 4-letter name to be the Yud of the head and the He of the collarbone and shoulders and arms, and the Vav of the spine, and the lower He of the pelvis, the hips and legs, connecting you back down. Breathing and being breathed. Gratitude for the nisim, the miracles of this body, even in its imperfections and in its pain. And the 6 words that we will say in each of these blessings are, you can use the classic 6 words, Baruch Atah Havaya, but today, being that we're so connected to that Shekhinah energy of the earth, those 6 words will be Bruchat At Shekhinah, sorry. Brucha At, blessed are you, Shekhinah, Che, life ha'olamim, life of all the worlds. So it's actually 5 words, right? Brucha At Shekhinah, Che ha'olamim, life of all the worlds. And sometimes we will be that fountain. The berach, the Hebrew word for fountain is brecha, and berach is neves, and we're blessing. So sometimes we'll do brucha at brucha at shechina, and then opening up. So from that place of honoring the earth and that energy from below that supports our foundation, Chei ha'olamim, that life that comes from us and out into all the worlds, and that we're also receiving. So we're kind of giving and receiving, there's this giving and receiving. So that's the basic beginning part. And now we're going to journey through our body as our body of gratitude here. Again, in your body's way and your body's discovery. Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim. You abound in blessings, Shekhinah, life of all the worlds. And the first one is Asher, Lasek vivina, lahavchin ben yom uvein laila. And again, I will give you these later so you don't have to write them down. So who literally causes the rooster to distinguish between day and night? Asher lasek vivina lahavchin ben yom uvein laila. And I usually sweep this toward the east, towards the awakening of the east and the setting of the sun. Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim, Sha'asani b'tzalmo, who creates me in your image. Breathing into, I was so inspired, Carola, by what you said about, that heart, about the teaching from Bonnie Baden Rouge Cohen, the heart just resting. So I invite you all to just have the hands on the heart. You could even soften. And if you're standing, make sure those knees are released, and you can just soften into that gratitude of that. The heart can rest here and it doesn't have to do anything. It can be held. Being made in that image of the holy oneness, the heart of your heart that connects to the heart of the world. And in connecting to the heart of that greater world, we know from the body-mind centering that that heart is the center out of which the arms and the legs and everything grows. So we release, but from that heart, Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim, She'asani Yisrael. So in this place, who's made me in that image of that which is greater than me. And it's made me in that image. We can look into the screen and see each other. It's made me part of something that I wrestle with. And yet I can wrestle with it because I am connected here. And there's a miracle in that. For that we are grateful. Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim, She'asani bat chorin, who has made me to be free. So we know on many levels what that freedom might mean. And in this moment, I'm going to invite you. I do a sweeping motion to just let yourself release. Sweep, just as you're checking in with what's arising in the heart, in the thought realm, in the anything that's just in the way from being fully present, just let it sweep or shake it out. Okay, shaking it out. And amen. And if it's comfortable for you to release over, you can. Again, at whatever level, I go all the way down to the floor. And from this place now, as we bless this Holy One, we're going to root down through the feet, again, from the center of that pelvis down through your feet. And imagine those beautiful plants that have been coming up out of the ground, like that area. And we're going to come up and straighten our bent places. So rooting down to the earth through the feet. And as you roll up slowly, Brucha at Shekhinah, you're rolling up. Chei ha'olamim, Zokef kefufim, straightening all those bent places, and you can just let yourself keep growing taller, reaching up, one of those beautiful plants. You might even stretch to one side and the other. Amen. And now I allow myself to be bathed in the Mother Earth energy. I am kind of again, I think it's in Qigong, they call it a bubbling spring. It's that point in the sole of the foot, like right in the center. And I'm actually just kind of vibrating my legs and just imagining that earth energy coming up, the part that the earth is generously wants to give you. And that energy is, you can visualize any color, any texture, maybe it even has a sound, and it comes up, and it comes up through the soles of the feet. And in this part of the practice, I really begin to just scan through the body, offering it healing and waking up and awareness of whatever is. So it comes up through the feet and it rises into the bones and the bone marrow, especially of the major trochanters of the legs, and the bone marrow that produces the blood, the healthy blood, red blood cells. And just imagine that moving through, pumping through the heart and into the blood vessels, into the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, So just that whole sense of foundation and connection, the lifeblood moving through you, and then out into the outer layers of your skin, our largest respiratory system. And I'm patting it. And Barucha at Shechina Chei Ha'olamim Malbisha Rumim, who literally clothes the naked, but who I'm in gratitude for my skin. And now allowing the synovial fluids to just connect into the synovial fluids of the hips, circling the hips, again, in your body's way, the rib cage. When I circle the rib cage, I'm aware that I'm also massaging all those internal organs that we will kind of welcome and visualize. You can move your shoulders in small ways, your elbows, your fingers. You can let the head move. So again, whatever mobility in joints, from toes to fingers. And as we move this around, Brucha at Shechina, Chei Ha'olamim, Matir Asurim, who frees the bound places. So noticing what is bound, what you're grateful for in the openings, in the flexibility, and what tenderly do we have to just send some love and extra energy to that might feel bound. Sensing again that earth energy rising up. And now we're going to go let ourselves come through the organs of the body. And again, as Rabbi Diane has taught us, that the energy, that even as I name organs of the body, if those organs are not present physically in you, their energy is still there. And even if the physical structure has been removed, and just sometimes that tissue hearing the name, it perks up the ears of the tissues, what you said, Rabbi Diane. So we're going to allow that energy now to rise up into the right up through again that perineal area, and just imagining it just healing, loving energy that is opening into the vagina, the uterus, the ovaries. And you're welcome to use your hands and just caress and touch into the bladder, appendix, that whole progenitive center, into the colon, large intestine, small intestine. You can, I know that sometimes there's a Qigong movement that Diane's taught us, where you kind of just, you just kind of move around gently the hands, or you can massage. I always say here, nikuvim, nikuvim, chalulim, chalulim, just that reminder of what is open and closed, and that it should all be working right. The ileocecal valve that connects the large and small intestine and the colon. And then just letting this, again, that energy and that awareness and that massage to move up into the digestion. The direction that I'm going when I circle is I go up the right side and down the left. So I know it looks reversed in the screen, but I'm going up the right and down the left. So just bringing that loving energy and gratitude for the function of the stomach, the liver on the right side, and the gallbladder kind of right under there. The spleen that is right kind of below the diaphragm, and oh, did I say spleen? I meant pancreas. The pancreas, and then the spleen's on the left side. So all these vital organs just filled with that light energy, and that physical touch. You could spend lots of time on this. And now we're going to go back to the kidneys. So into your back area where the kidneys, I'd like to do, again, from Qigong, a little bit of patting and the adrenal glands. Miracle of all of these vital organs working so well. And then letting that patting and that massaging come up to the heart and the lungs, from the lower lungs up toward the top of where the collarbone, the lungs take up a lot of space in the heart, the breasts, throat, the neck. I can't believe how many knots are in here. Just breathing into the spaces and the knots. Nikuvim, nikuvim, chalulim, chalulim. And then just brushing down like the immune system. So we have all these glands, or immune glands, from the side of the throat and the sides of the armpits down into the inner thighs, down and even across the ankles, and just giving ourselves that kind of waking up and gratitude for the immune system functioning, coming into the jaw, teeth, gums, mouth, into the eyes. And we have a blessing here. Brucha at Shechina, Chei ha'olamim, Pokeach ivrim, opening the eyes of the blind. So sometimes I touch and look around. Sometimes I just look out and see something I haven't noticed before yet. What am I seeing? Taking a look, circling the eyes. And then we have the ears. This is an added one. This is the bonus morning blessing. Pokeach Hesherim. It's not actually in the liturgy. Brucha at Shekhinah. And I give gentle pull to the ears to open up the ear canals. Chei ha'olamim. Pokeach Hesherim, to open the ears of the deaf. I think we really should add this one to the liturgy, because we do need to be listening to each other, don't we? So important. And then just tapping into the third eye, the pituitary, the endocrine system, and then allowing yourself to just tap the top of the head. So I love some of the teaching Rabbi Diane has been doing around the brain, the ventricles of the brain, and just imagine the space. Or you could squeeze and massage. I usually kind of just tap, but whatever, again, helps to awaken the sense of just the brain, of the fluids, of the space. We say, Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei olamim, Oter, Yisrael Batifara, who crowns us with beauty. So a place of being crowned with beauty. even in the midst of the struggles, even in the midst of the broken heart and the pain. And from here, it fountains open. And if you've ever been to those beautiful science exhibits on the body and seen the whole tree, the whole nervous system looks like a tree of life. Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim. And this is when I actually step out. So Rokaha Aretz, Ahamayim, who spreads out the earth over the waters. And I think of this as the waters of my body and that whole nervous system. Incredible tree of life. It's gorgeous. That whole nervous system is like so beautiful. And again, from that heart, we're reaching beyond ourselves into the world. We feel the support of the earth allowing us to do this. And then the gratitude, what's starting to automatically happen as I'm watching some of you as you're walking. So that sense of feeling the firmness of the ground under our feet. Brucha at Shekhinah Chei ha'olamim, hamechin mitzadei gaver, who has made firm my steps. Even when I don't know how I'm going to take the next step right now in my life, I can trust at the ground. There's a sense of faithfulness. So again, we're feeling both the connection in a physical way and in the four worlds way. And then coming in for a landing with these blessings, we have just a couple more. So coming back to a place where you can just sense the strength that you have, your Gevura strength. Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim. Ozer Yisrael B'Gvura, who provides, who gives strength to, again, the places in you that are struggling, your inner Yisrael, that God wrestling. But we're not doing it alone. We have each other, right? But you can feel also that sense of muscle to the bone, that sense of strength, that sense of where you're strong. Where does your strength in your body feel like it's coming from today? Breathing and being breathed into that strength. We bring our hand to the heart, one hand to the belly, thanking the Holy One a blessing for all my needs. Brucha at Shekhinah Chei ha'olamim. She'asani. Brucha at Shekhinah Chei ha'olamim. Who provides for all my needs. She'asali kol tzorki. All the needs that allow you to do the holy work you do and to be in your body each and every day. And we ask for strength for those weary places that many of you mentioned about. Brucha at Shekhinah. Chei ha'olamim hanotein laya'ef koach, who gives strength to those weary places. Again, circling, it comes from the earth, it comes through us, it comes from above. It's a sense of a cycle. And finally, before we step out, one last one. Brucha at Shekhinah, Chei ha'olamim. Hama'avir sheina me'enai utnuma me'afapai, who moves sleep from my eyes and slumber from my eyelids. And this is different than at the beginning, because now everything is activated and woken up. And there's a sense that, again, we can connect with that third eye center, that inner knowing that'll allow us to step into the day. As Corolla said, what is it I'm wearing today? Or Reb Zalman says, well, how am I showing up? How am I being deployed? And together we say, Amen.
Woo! Beautiful practice. Thank you so much. I feel quite enlivened and ready for anything. Maybe not anything. Let's just take maybe 10 minutes or so to give some appreciation and feedback to Rivka, what you experienced in this practice. And as she said, she will be sending out some kind of writing. I think it's always a great impetus when you teach, and then ask yourself to try to put into words and make some kind of handout for people. It helps to clarify. And so yeah, let's take about 10 minutes or so before we take a little break to give feedback to Rivka.
I have been having a lot of back pain, leg pain, and it really helped the movement, the way that we did it from all different directions and ups and downs, and coming from the feet and coming from the inside of the body, and all of that was just really useful. It was really helpful, and it felt really good. So I had to stop and sit down because standing really aggravates it, but it was fine. I could just do that and then jump back into the next thing. So it really worked for me, and I thank you so much.
Thank you for a beautiful integration. I have two pieces of feedback. One is it felt really enlivening and good, and made me aware of where my energy's stuck, and kind of started to move, which was great. And just an appreciation of those prayers, which I've typically skipped over, or done some very abbreviated format. So yeah, I would love to have something written so that I could begin to incorporate that as a practice. Thank you.
Yes, and also helping the breathing and being breathed, the crown and the upper. It so I don't know the right word, but like relational, and loving and caring. And I realize I very often in the morning, either I skip a part or I quicken. I say not fully go step by step by step and layer, and it's good to do it. So you encourage me to be a bit more lovingly waking up in the morning. Yeah, thank you.
I have a car accident that talks to me, my left shoulder. And there's something so beautiful and natural and healing about specifically the first 3 moves until my arms are above my head and saying thank you. It feels like you've unlocked something I already knew, and for that I am incredibly grateful. Thank you. It's exquisite. You give me chills, my friend. I appreciate it.
Rivka, I love the integration that you've made. It's between the figure eights from the base of the pelvis and the brain material. And that to me, that place of initiation and starting with the polarity balance integrated with the movement of the pelvis, that is so powerful. And I think that really unlocks the whole energy system. So then we could be more available to go through the individual movements. But yeah, it unlocks the nervous system, but also the energy system, and really could be correlated eventually, I think, with the spherot. So yeah, this was just beautiful, and hope we get to do it again. And it would be interesting too for me to see. So you were teaching it to us, which meant that you really slowed it down and opened it up so that you could really share with us the intentionality of each set of movements. And that is so wonderful. And also would be lovely if we ever get to come together again in person, or even online to practice as a flow. Yeah, also.
I was maybe Rivka, you could make a video just going through the whole flow, because that would be really cool. Then you don't have to write down all the. This is Rhonda. Then you don't have to write down every single movement, but you can just demonstrate it, and then we can have the words.
Thank you. I actually have it already written down because I made for this and just thank you all so much for your feedback, because I made this when I made a embodied Siddur for the part of my certification in the program. So I have it already. I just might tweak it a little or just leave it as is. So I don't have to like start from the beginning. But I think making a recording is good. And yes, this was really, really slowed down. This is a piece of work that I realize it's part of, like, we each have work that we give over. And I realize that this is a piece of work that it could be a very long workshop where we go through one blessing at a time. I mean, I could spend a whole workshop on just the Brucha At Shechina Chei Ha'olamim part. I mean, it's like every single part. It's huge. It's vast, right? It's worlds within worlds. But thank you for everything that you all said, because what you got out of it is exactly why I do this. And I've been lamenting to Diane all year, saying, I'm so deeply in this, like in the year of COVID, this would have been great to share with people. And I just didn't have the wherewithal to offer it. So I'm trusting that it will come out as it's meant to, and to be offering it. And I think just thank you, Diane, so much, because I feel like really this gave me an opportunity to maybe open the lid and feel a little more confident to bring it out into the world. But yes, I do this every day, and you can imagine I don't take this amount of time. So I do flow through it, and I will record that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope this last Eileen's presentation and Rivka's will inspire others of you here and also those of you who are watching this recording to step forward and share some piece of what you're doing, even if it's not the same kind of application, even, some embodied spirituality work that you're doing, even if it's not an application to the prayer service or Torah or something, but some way that this is coming through for you in your life. So you can just email me and we can, find a time to schedule that, because it's so enriching and it's really what this whole program has been working toward, is how do we bring this into our work, our lives, share it, and each time somebody does share it in your own way, it just opens so much up for all of us. So let's take maybe 5 minutes. When we come back, we're going to continue. Maybe we'll do the Yud Hey Vav Hey for Sivan, and then continue looking at Sefer Yetzirah, which is getting more and more interesting to me. And so let's take about 5 minutes to take care of yourself, and I'll call you back with some music.
מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים. מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים. שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך, שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך, מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים, מלך חי וקיים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר יצר את האדם בחוכמה וברבו. נקבים נקבים חלולים חלולים גלוי בידוע, לפני כיסא כבודך שאם יפתח אחד מהם או יסתם אחד מהם אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים.
I love that. It's a way to have Elisa with us. She can't be here because she works on Sundays, but I love that wonderful track on her album. So let's just take a moment to find the Yud He Vav He for Sivan. That the way I've been working with it, I'll share. And Rivka, you set us up for this by having us already feel that in our bodies. So you can do this sitting down, or you can do it standing up. Either way. Maybe I'll just do it in my chair here today, for those who want to kind of try that with me. or stand up. So I assume you can still hear me, right? Yeah, my great microphone. So Sivan is Yud, Vav, Hey, Hey. That's the order. And I've really been enjoying working with this one. It just, there's one part of it I'm questioning still, so I'll share with you what I've sort of come to. But the beginning just felt so natural. So I started with this little, the Yud is like a little portal. We did this before. It's like a little opening up here, like a little fish almost. So the Yud is up here and it just flows right into the Vav, which I like to look up, and it's coming right down to my mouth and through my throat all the way to my high heart. So that's the thymus glands. So it's Yud, Vav, and then for the Hays, it just felt right to start in the middle and open and leave an opening at both shoulders. Because we've been doing the Hey either this way or this way, so just both shoulders, and then just unfurling the arms. And the same thing here, starting at the belly center, opening toward both hips, but leaving a space, an opening at the hips, and then coming down the legs. And you can either go all the way down, or you can just go as far as you go, and then just kind of feel the rest of the way. But you want to imagine the whole way down through that bubbling spring center of the foot into the earth. So we have these really two wide vessels of the hay here in our torso, pelvis, and legs, and we're being fed through this funnel from above. That's how it feels to me during the month of Sivan, which feels appropriate for the receiving of Torah, which is the big holiday, obviously, at the beginning of the month, Shavuot. But we keep integrating the Torah. So we're getting fed from the mountain, and we're channeling it down through our own kind of consciousness, our digestive system, and then we have to be the vessels to hold and carry this Torah and to dispense it into the world as needed and as the world is ready for it. So let's do it through with our singing. So the song is 7 repetitions, and then the 4 more times with just the breath. The breath and the shape of the vowels. So when we get to that part, I'm just coming a little closer, it's the y, the shape of the yud is the y, and then the vav, which we've been doing, is the shape of a W, which may have been how it was pronounced in ancient times. So it's really you. So to me, that's again the divine relationship that we have with the divine at Sinai. We're being directly addressed as a you, and we receive from the divine as a you, as a second person, plural, who's right here speaking to me, giving me my Torah, that's teaching that each person at Sinai in the Midrash heard a different Torah. We each hear that beautiful addition to the morning blessings, blessing the one who wipes away our deafness so that we can hear the particular Torah that's coming to us. So it would be you, and then I take another breath here for the 2. And I find after we do the singing that those 2 with just the breath sound, that shaping, is really the most powerful after you raise the vibration with the actual singing. So let's try it together, starting with the song. Yud Vav Hey, hey. Breathe in. So the breathing in, I come up through the center. Yud, Vav, Hey, Hey. Breathe in, up, right up through the center. Yud, Vav, Hey. Yud, Vav, Hey. Yud, Vav, Hey. Yud, Vav, Yud, Vav, and just the breath. And taking a moment just to pause, to feel that vibration of Tselem Elohim, of that divine anatomy within you, as color, as light, as vibration, movement, inner movement, temperature change, flow, however you experience it. And whatever you experience, bring your awareness to it, your breath, so that it imprints even more deeply, even more fully. And just wherever you're sitting or standing, imagine that you could let every other part of your body, all the physical structures that we have awakened already with Rivka, just kind of fall into the background for a moment and just find a little bit of subtle movement in any direction that is coming immediately from that Yud He Vav He form within and beyond yourself. And if your eyes are closed, just gently let them come open. And as you do this little bit of subtle shifting of the inner Yud He Vav He, just allow your senses, soft eyes, ears, whatever, to take in the immediate realm around you from this place. Perceiving through the inner divinity. And then bringing that back to our togetherness here and perceiving one another for a moment with that, from that, which I think we always do actually. So any comments or responses to that particular, we're sort of working our way through the year here to that. Yeah, Carola.
Well, I'm really touched. I really, I had not in my own working with it yet, drinking the waft in through the mouth so much like you showed. And to me, that whole experience, like really like what Reb Salman says, like there is this breast giving milk, you know, so I felt, oh, wow, what is happening here? And like this hollowing, the image of the Sefer Yetzirah, like you ended, like this inner presence is like, there is a hollowness which is filled with this huge light milk, whatever, presence. So that's very powerful coming in. And in the wazifas I'm used to work with in the Sufi context, there is one which is Ya Vahabo, which is Ya Va and then Bo, and that's the bestower, the flow, the giver. Mm-hmm. And I, you know, so now it makes sense, you know, so in this Yod Vav Hey. So it's very powerful to me. There's a dimension I hadn't touched yet. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it strikes me that the Yawaha Bo is the Yud Vav Hey Bo in Hebrew is come. So yeah.
Yeah, come inside. Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Rivka.
Yeah, so kind of reiterating a little, or just what Carola said, I've been working with this structure this month, and I'm always delighted to see how, like for some reason I was having a disconnect between that Yud and that Vav, and then that just like made it so like yes. And this whole opening of the throat, I hold so much tension here that I just felt such like incredible opening. And then the idea, or, you know, that you can actually allow the haze to unfold equally also gave extra spaciousness. to this particular structure that just felt like it was opening up the central channel for me really fully. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like a new letter. It's like a hay with openings at both both sides. I have to play with that, and yeah, because we usually have the hay. There's one way that the opening can come in from the above, and then it opens toward the earth. In this way, there's two openings from above, and it opens toward the earth. And I realized that I wasn't just going from the center. I was actually, especially on the pelvis, I was actually crossing. So, but leaving that space about here, which is for shoulders, this is often a very contracted space right in here. It's that, pectoralis, major and minor, which are breathing muscles. They connect, if I'm remembering correctly, where do they, from the arms into the ribs with different fingers of muscle connecting. And this is often a really protected place. And so this opens, and it's important to remember what, when you do open, what Carolla brought from what our teacher Bonnie Cohen is teaching, that the tendency when we open this, often like in dance or in yoga, is to push the chest forward, have the heart be really kind of pressed forward and closed in the back. And that's not what we want. We want this to open while the heart stays full and open in the back as well. So it's much subtler. And I love that this way of having the double opening with the hay can encourage that kind of subtle opening right through here without pressing the chest forward, throwing the head back. The other thing here I would say is some of us have neck, challenges, so you want to be careful that you're not dropping your head back too much, but that you can do it with a very subtle movement, that upward, just to gently keep the length through the back as well as the softness in the front. And then that's what keeps your throat open to receive. So if you do this, the throat closes down. And that's another subtlety of it, I think, to keep this soft and openness. I could have come through the top of the head, but I don't know, something about this month just felt like it wanted to come through the mouth. Yeah. And there's that other image also from the Mishnah. It's about teaching and learning as a calf suckling. The saying is, more than the calf wants to suckle, the teacher wants to, give over the milk. And so there's something about being receptive to the divine overflow of the nourishment, that it's always there, and we have to be able to just open our mouths and open our throats to get it, to receive it. Yeah, Michelle.
And they handed me my baby, and he tried to suckle. They said, babies know how to suck. They don't know how to swallow. And he would get so angry. It took a while, but I think the same is with us. We can open, but then, and it's there, but we have to learn to receive, and that's what your movement does.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what Shavuot is about every year, too. Yeah, Ahuva.
I noticed, and I think this was also related to Rivka's piece, but I felt a lot of energy in my legs, and I felt like it was that it was coming down to where it was needed, that the juiciness came down there. So that was my experience.
That's great. And I will just add to this idea of the resting heart. Bonnie also talks about the peaceful spine. And the spine isn't just the bones and the joints. it's also the nodal cord, which is the cartilage discs, but the energy of the nodal cord isn't separated into separate discs. It's really a flow. That's the memory in our body, just like that memory of the organs that might not be there anymore. The nodal cord isn't there in its original form, but its original form is a flow all the way up and down. And there's also the spinal cord and the cerebrospinal fluid. So for me, it's really helpful. I also have, arthritic stuff happening with the joints, but to bring in the fluid, and also we've been talking a lot in Body Mind Centering about the gel. So the gel is the interstitium, that kind of semi-fluid connective matrix that all of our body structures and cells are contained within. And so to bring up the gel and the fluid and the sense of that flow up and down of the nodal cord, that really helps relieve the stress on the more bony parts of ourselves, or wherever it is that you happen to hold stress. So it's a really wonderful experience that you shared, Ahuva, of feeling the flow through the legs, because that means that the spinal energy is really moving.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, up and down. So thank you. Yeah. So shall we do a little bit with Sefer Yetzirah? I wanted to, so we've done the first, we're working with the Sfirot in Sefer Yetzirah. And Yetzirah, I just wanted to do a little more contextualizing, because there's certain things I think that sometimes I can take for granted and then they don't get said. And it's helpful to say them even if you've already heard them before. So we've been looking at, I'm going to bring up the handout, the part of Sefer Yetzirah where it starts to describe the Sfirot, which is really different than the way we envision the Sfirot in our usual, tree of life diagrams, which is a later version of the Sfirot, more from the Lurianic Kabbalah, which is 16th century, 1500s. Sefer Yetzirah, we don't know exactly when it was composed. We know it could either have been around the middle of the first millennium, so we're looking at 500, 600, 700s, or it could go all the way back to the first millennium. That is the time around the destruction of the Second Temple, the time of Jesus, the time of the early rabbis, rabbinic sages. And it's attributed traditionally to Abraham, but that's probably not who wrote it down. So that's what we've been looking at. Let me just bring this up so we all have it. And I'll send out this handout in an email afterwards. Didn't get it to you beforehand. Let's see here. All right, so I want to be able to see you as well as the handout, so I'm putting us on gallery and expanding that. And hopefully the handout is big enough for you to see. I can make it bigger. Okay. So we have done some movement for the first three, but a little more context is just to remind us that Sefer Yetzirah is a mystical version of the creation of the cosmos. So it takes off from really the very first lines of Bereshit. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, and that description is a kind of a simple way of saying in a beginning. Literally, in a beginning, Elohim created, or in a beginning created Elohim is a midrashic and mystical way of reading that. The beginning, the Big Bang, gave rise to the version of divinity that we relate to, or the versions of divinity that we relate to. In a sense, compacting the divine into forms that we in our human materiality can relate to from the infinite. And Sefer Yetzirah is a very detailed and different way of looking at how the cosmos came into being. It's another version of Bereshit. Danny Matt calls it a proto-Kabbalistic text. So it's a mystical text, but it's not yet what we call Kabbalah, which scholars tend to say Kabbalah is really what arose in the Middle Ages with the Zohar and the Bahir and those other texts that got written down later, more like the 1200s and the 1300s. Sefer Yetzirah is a mystical text, but from earlier. It's the first place that we hear about the Sefirot, that this was the way that the world was manifested through these 32 miraculous pathways of the Sefirot, the points, the countings, and the letters, which are the 22. 10 Sefirot, Bilima, 10 countings without that we can't really describe, that don't have matter, and 22 miraculous pathways that are defined by the letters of the Hebrew Aleph Bet. In Sefer Yetzirah, so God creates the world through letters and numbers, which isn't what it says in Bereshit. Bereshit isn't very specific other than God spoke. There were words. And here it's saying letters and numbers. God's word surges through the numbers. Sefirot, Sephirah means point or telling or counting. It has different glosses in the Hebrew. God's word surges through these numbers and these letters, the pathways. And we began to look at last time how there's a kind of a surging through of this divine ruach, this divine spirit, that begins to carve out the cosmos. So carving and engraving are the verbs that are used. So here the Sefirot don't have any particular qualities or personalities, which is what they acquire later on with the medieval Kabbalah and then the Lurianic Kabbalah, which begins to make them almost into characters, like God's inner committee, right? We have, Ima and Abba and Adonai and Shekhinah, and they begin to become more like personae, entities. Here, it's just the numbers. So this integrates the biblical notion that God creates through language with if you want to get more scholarly about it and analytical, it's a kind of integration of this biblical notion, which is much older, that God creates through speaking, sound vibration, of language, and integrates that with the Pythagorean idea that the world is built on numbers, which is a Greek idea, obviously. And a lot of Jewish mysticism is an integration of very ancient ways of perceiving the world with the Hellenistic influence, the Greek influence. Gradually, over the next 1,000 years, the Sefirot turn from meaning numbers to meaning the inner workings of the divine emanation. So, and I'm getting this information from some amazing teachings that I was able to listen to from Danny Matt, our friend, and world famous expert on Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. So here we can look at how the numbers unfold, and from infinitude we get oneness, and from oneness we begin to get multiplicity. So I want to just read through together, and then we'll begin to work again with the movement. I'm adding this month, we have looked at the one, the number one, the first sphira is achat, and then the second and the third. So I just want to say the words, and you can just receive this, and then we'll begin to look at the movement, the chants and the movement. This is really, for me, I have to say, this is the way I learn. I can't learn it from just looking at it in a book, you know. So that's why I've had to do all of this embodiment work, because that's the way I understand and remember. I think earlier today somebody said something about how the movement that Rivka gave us is a kind of remembering of your body, self, who you are. And for me, all of these things that we are learning here, that the mystics placed into language for us and channeled through so that they could become part of our communal understanding and practice. All of these words are things that we know deeply because we're made out of this stuff. This is what we're made of. So we know this. It's a remembering. So, achat, one, and just to note that that's in the feminine. Achat, ruach Elohim chayim, one spirit breath of the living power. Elohim is often associated with Gevura in later Kabbalah, but it's that sense of, also contains El, which is the creative aspect of the divine. Ruach Elohim Chayim, Baruch Umevorach Shemo. So bowed before, that's one of the ways I like to translate blessed, is with that gloss of bending the knee, berech, and that pool of blessing that we are bowing toward. So the divine is that before which we bow. Umavorach. So blessed, bowed before, and bowed before. That's like two forms of the same verb, the more active and the more receptive. Baruch umvorach Shemo. Shemo, Shem, God's name, Shem, literally means name, but also often is, at least in the ancient Hebrew, means presence. In a different way perhaps than Shekhinah means presence. So Shem is also a way of saying we are bowing before this presence, Shel Chei HaOlamim, of the life of the worlds. Kol, Veruach, V'dibur. So these three aspects of how the divine creates through kol, voice, sound. So it's the same word, sound and voice. Voice being that movement of our bodies that makes the sound audible. That's what voice actually is. It's vocalized sound is when our vocal diaphragm, the two edges of it, vibrate so rapidly close to each other that they interrupt the airflow, and they make the vibration. Through their vibrating, they make the breath audible in different forms, and then all of the rest of our body actually participates in shaping that sound, the pitch of it, the tone of it, the emotional quality of it, and the teeth, tongue, and lips create the stops that are consonants that give meaning to words. So it's kol, all of the three parts here. Vibratory sound, v'ruach, breath, v'dibur, and the actual shaping into language, into words, speech. V'zehu ruach hakodesh, and this is the Holy Spirit, the holy wind, the holy breath that creates. So that's the first one that we learned, and we've actually done the movement and the chant that came from our friend Chazan Shendel Adler. And she only worked with the first one. She's a singer and vocal teacher, and I asked her, did you do any of the others? She said, no, I only did the first one. So, so I feel like there's a space for us to keep going. This is the simple translation from Rabbi Jill Hammer. Breath of the living God, blessed and source of blessing is the name of the life of the worlds. Voice, breath, and speech, and this is the Holy Spirit. And then we looked at how the one that somehow precipitates out of the infinite, then this is where the Lurianic story comes in. It has to be that contraction and that withdrawal of to make oneness, and then out of the one begins to flow the many. So here's two, shtayim, ruach meruach. So two, breath from breath, or spirit from spirit, or wind from wind. Chakak v'chatzav ba. Engraved, the one engraved and carved with or within it. But the it is feminine, so her. We don't know what the it is, but there's something, some substance that is being engraved and carved. And you'll see a little bit more about that when we get to the next one. Arba ruchot hashamayim, the four winds of the heavens. So this is the next stage of the creation, is breath from breath. It's like a more specific breath comes from that more general breath of the one. A more refined spirit is flowing from the spirit of the one, and this more refined spirit is wind. And that wind begins to have a sense of, you have to kind of let go of trying to pin this down and just let it wash over you. Just like any Kabbalah, it's some kind of a vision that comes from beyond the beyond. The four winds recall for us in the biblical creation story the four rivers that flow from Eden. Or you could think about the beginning sense, it's not quite there yet. It comes with the later Sfirot, but this is the unformed suggestion of the four directions, which are much more defined with the later Sfirot. So two, breath from breath, the one engraved and carved within her. And to me, it's not clear whether it's with her, like used that original breath to carve the next breath, and or maybe at the same time is carving from something within her, whatever the matter is, the stuff is that's being carved out. And out of that is opened up these channels, the four winds of heaven. Maybe they're moving in multiple directions at once. And now we come to the one that's new to us today. Shalosh is three. Mayim meruach, water from breath, from wind. This is the third point of creation, the third sephirah. Chakak v'chatzav bahem. So we have the same verbs. Chakak, engraved, and chatzav, carved. Bahem, this time, at least in this version, it's not just within it, it's within them. It's plural. Tohu vavohu. Somehow tohu vavohu is getting carved without or with, in them, chaos and void are not nothing, they're something. Apparently, according to this mystic vision. Refesh vatit, that's mud and clay. Chakak kamin aruga, ha-chakakan kamin aruga. So he, it, they engraved them like a sort of garden. Chatzavan kemin choma, carved them out like a sort of wall. Sichachan kemin ma'aziva, wove them like a sort of ceiling. So you can see that out of this flowing infinitude of whatever, space-time, things are beginning to take shape, almost like in a dream, to congeal, to come into some kind of form. And we're beginning to get the garden, which for me has a sense of the fullness, multidimensionality of space around, but maybe it's a horizontal sense also of connectivity to this garden. And walls, choma, maybe walls that create container, and then aziva, sechachan kamin ma'aziva, a wovenness that creates a kind of ceiling overhead. And when I was studying this week, what came to me was, whoa, this feels like a sukkah. Because the sukkah is a hut that was in a field for harvest, a harvest hut. So it's surrounded by, you could imagine yourself in the middle of a field of crops that are just becoming mature. And you're surrounded by walls. Of course, the sukkah doesn't have 4 walls. It just has maybe 2.5 walls, something like that, or 3 walls. And then you've got this woven, and Rabbi Jill talks about the actual word schachan, sichachan. So it comes, it's the same root as schach. So that branches that are woven over to make the ceiling of a sukkah. Kamin ha'aziva creates a kind of ceiling. And an aziva, she says, I gave you, when I send this to you, you'll see an excerpt from her book, if you don't have it. She talks about the ceiling. The word ma'aziva here is translated as ceiling. It means literally a concrete pavement that serves as a ceiling above, and also may serve as a floor for the story above. So we're beginning to get this sense of world upon world upon world. And that there's a kind of disorganized chaoticness that exists outside this structure that's beginning to congeal one step at a time, count by count, number by number. So I'm still kind of working with, I'm not even sure I can do the chant for the shalosh, but we can review the first 2, and maybe just do it with the chant and kind of beginning to mark the movement. And then after we've reviewed it, those of us who want to stand and do it standing, we can do that. But we can begin to remember. So the chant for the achat, I'll do it and you can join me, and you can begin to remember the movement together here. So it starts with that reach above. Achat. I'll start a little bit lower. Achat. And it comes down. The fingertips leading down as if you're drawing that energy through your central column right down to your Yesod center, your belly. And there's a kind of rubbing that can happen there. Ruach Elohim goes down the legs. Chaim comes back up. Baruch, there's a bowing. Umivorach, Shemo goes back up again. Then it comes into that ball of energy above your head, and it turns to the right. Shelechei ha'olamim, carrying it overhead, turns to the left. Shelechei ha'olamim, back to the center. And then again coming down, this time with the palms of the hands facing to your throat. Kol, and then to your belly. Veruah, and then to your lips. Bidibur, and then sliding down your throat to your heart center. Pulling apart, opening the fingers and arms growing out of the heart. Vizehu, finding your angel wings. Ruach HaKodesh, to the belly and then right back up to the heart center. So we'll do this a few times through. You can stand if you wish or continue to sit. And just let it seep in. You don't have to try to get it right. We'll just let it seep in together. Move up back a little bit. I'm going to leave the words up for now so that you have that if you need them. Achad Ruach Elohim Chaim Baruch Umivorach Shemo Shelechei ha'olamim Shelechei ha'olamim Kol Veruah B'dibur V'zehu Ruach HaKodesh. Take a breath, and we're going to do it again with a resting breath in between each repetition. We'll do it 3 more times. Breathing in into overhead. Achad. Coming down. Ruach Elohim Chaim Baruch Umivorach Shemo Shelechei ha'olamim Shelechei ha'olamim Kol Veruah B'dibur V'zehu Ruach HaKodesh. Resting breath. Breathe in, come up. Achad Ruach V'dibu v'zehu Ruach HaKodesh. Breathe. We'll do it one more time. Breathing into overhead. Achah. שלחי העולמים, שלחי העולמים, קול ורוח ודיבור וזהו רוח הקודש. Just invite you to wherever you are, bring your arms, let your arms come down. If you're standing, you might want to just have them a little bit out from your sides, not completely relaxed, just a little space under the armpits. Same thing sitting. Your backs of your hands might face forward. This is a Wu Chi from Qigong, but just that kind of softness through your hips, knees, ankles, through your spine, peaceful heart, and just rest in the vibration for a moment. Good. So let's just come back together for a moment. So maybe you could feel that this is kind of, it's a sort of, I don't want to say polar opposite, but it's a huge expansion of the place that we went with Rivka in the morning blessings, which are so much about the miracles of our physical selves and the containership of this body. This is really asking us to go to that. It's a very dissolved place, even though the movements are specific, but they're designed to take us back to the oneness. And similar to, this is one of the great principles of mysticism, that the experience which a mystic has is ineffable. When we are in the mystical experience, there are no words, maybe not even any imagery. And yet, what has happened through all of the thousands of years of history of our Jewish mysticism is that words have then been brought back by the mystics. And once it comes into language, and often it's amazing poetic language of Sefer Yetzirah or the Zohar or the Psalms, it's almost like, giving language to dreams and visions, then it begins to become something that could be accessible to us as a community, even though mysticism was really kept quite under wraps for much of these thousands of years, and just very elite, small groups of people, mostly men, were engaging with this. But here we have this language, and similarly, we have our bodies bringing into materiality. This is taking us back to that very pre and beginning of the state of being able to language it. Just as in our developmental work, in some of us who do the somatic developmental work, go back to that preconception place and bring ourselves forward again. There's an opportunity for recreating the world every time we go back and then come forward again through this developmental process. So we come down to 2, Shtaim. So just reviewing the chant here and the movement a little bit. So we ended with Ruach HaKodesh. So Shtaim, Ruach Meruach, Chagog v'chatzev ba, Arba Ruchot, Arba Ruchot, Arba Ruchot Hashamayim. Shtayim. So just the 2 arms, because we're going to begin the carving action. Shtayim. And with your fingertips, I'm already beginning to carve here. Ruach, coming up toward the heart, and then back down again and around and down through center, all the way back to the belly center. Meruach. So it's that great breath, wind, undifferentiated, gives birth to a second breath, wind, which is more specific, more contained. Let's try that again. It's just Shtayim, Ruach, Meruach. It's almost like a breaststroke, kind of, and in body mind centering we call it the breath stroke, this kind of movement. And then Chagak v'chatzev ba. So those very specific movements of carving and sharp, bringing in that quality of staccato. Chagak v'chatzev ba. So this is just what I came up with. It's nice to have something we can do together. When you play with this, you might have a freer kind of carving, but Chagak v'chatzev ba. And then the 4 winds. Arba ruchot, Arba ruchot, Arba ruchot Hashamayim. So just the fingertips are the carvers. Try it once more here. Shtayim, Ruach Meruach. All the way back down to the belly. Chagak v'chatzev ba. Arba ruchot, Arba ruchot, Arba ruchot Hashamayim. So let's try to go on to Shalosh. I've got it recorded, it's the kind of thing where it comes through and then I have to learn it. I did it, I made it up, but then Shefa always talks about this. She sings the chant over and over and over again until it's really in her. This one is pretty new, so I'm not sure I can get all the way through it yet, but it's going to go down. That's where it went for me, because we're talking about water, and actually in Sefer Yetzirah, earth comes out from water. So there isn't actually a Sephirah that's devoted to earth. It's water gives rise to earth, kind of like in Breshit in the Torah, the waters are the first things, and they withdraw to reveal land in the Torah creation. Here, it's just kind of will be that water gives rise to Aretz, to the earth element. So for me, this is a going down, and we've finished with the heart here, and it's going to be the fingers like this reaching down toward the earth and where the waters are, and then a kind of moving side to side with the water. Shalosh, shalosh, ma'im meruach. So that's the beginning of it. You can just try it with me. It gets really low in the voice. Shalosh, ma'im meruach. And I'm just going side to side a little bit, as if I could dangle my fingers into the water. Just like there's a stream in front of me and I'm just stirring that stream with my fingertips. But I also feel like I'm reaching toward the earth at the same time. Shalosh ma'im meruach. And then it repeats chakak, v'chatzav, and then bahem. So the same movement from down here. Chakak, v'chatzav, bahem. So from down here where we've been flowing with the water, we carve again. Chakak, v'chatzav, bahem. So that movement repeats. One more time. Let's try the whole thing. Shalosh ma'im meruach chakak v'chatzav bahem. And then it's tohu vavohu. Tohu vavohu. So that's that void and confusion. And then it comes down again toward the earth. Refesh vatit. And that teat is really a strong sound. It's very staccato. Refesh vatit refers to mud and clay. So we have chaos and void, and then we have pressing down toward the mud, rebounds up and press down again toward the clay. Mud and clay is more solid than mud, clay. So tohu vavohu refesh vatit. And then we have these other carvings. So we have, let's see if I can remember the melody. Refesh vatit. Just the melody. Hachad kan kemin aruga. Chatzavan kemin choma, sichachan kemin ma'atzeva. That's the ceiling. So we have first the garden. Chachakan kemin aruga. So that's just a horizontal. That's what's outside the walls. And then we have Chatzavan kemin choma, just sensing, drawing with your hands, perhaps walls to the sides of you, to the front of you, just the beginning of that sense of three-dimensional space. And then the weaving of the ceiling. Sichachon kemin ha'amizah. Just fingertips weaving that together. So let's see if we can try this whole third one. Just following along with the movement. I'll send you you'll have recordings. I send you oral recordings of this. So we've just finished here. Let's see if I can find the Shalosh Mayim Meruah Chagan v'chatsav bahem Tohu vavohu Refesh vatit Kachachan kamin aruga Chatzavan kamin choma Sichachan kamin me'aziva. And just take a moment, rest, feel your body. Feel if your body self energy feels any different right now. I know we're just learning, but than you did when we finished our repetitions of Achat, of the first one. Great, so let's come back together. Finish up for today and just take a moment to anything you want to share, questions that are coming up, or how's this landing?
Felt energizing. It felt energizing as we got into the third one. I mean, not that the others weren't, but it kind of built on that energy, so that it was more, building walls and garden and, bigger.
Yeah, I felt a lot more muscular engagement after the third one. And I'll just point out that in the Hebrew, it says kamin in each of those three. So it's chakakan kamin. It's like, it's not as specific, but it's like a sort of, kind of like. It's still in that language. It's a little bit woozy, but it did feel a lot more muscular to me as we got to the third one. Yeah. Cool.
The achat was, I have no words for that quality of a stillness and a spaciousness, a wholeness, but like oneness, one. And then the shalosh, the two, I felt, maybe because of the chakak and the chakak, I felt two pillars of light coming out of this one. Mm-hmm. And then with the three, I felt a tripod coming. I don't know how, like I saw it like, okay, now it's 3 legs. Yeah, I don't know. It was maybe so complicated in a way that I wanted to simplify it like that. I don't know, like light rays, 1, 2, 3.
I felt the same thing. That's why my hands somehow went toward the, toward the earth on that. I felt almost like I was creating a third leg from
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Rhonda, were you unmuted there?
I guess I am unmuted. Yeah.
Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I wanted to say I'm really spaced out now. Maybe I was before, but now I mean I really felt this kind of expansiveness, and particularly the first to this last one. I'm having a hard time being in the container of the sukkah.
Ah,
But
yeah, it's not really
yeah,
very
I mean it's a lot. It's a lot of information to integrate.
right. So we'll be sure take a minute to ground ourselves and take more time after we sign off too. But Rivka,
Yeah, so quickly. So first of all, I love that you're developing this, because we were in that workshop with Chazan Shendel, and it is, I mean, what you the adjective of the dissolving. And I thought to myself, uh-oh, here we go again. I'm just going to get really expanded and dissolved. But that especially that arm movement, and then to do it again in the engraving and the cutting. By the third one, I actually felt a lot in my bones. You were saying muscular. I was feeling like my arm bones and muscles, and that energy that Ahuva was talking about. So I was starting to like feel that more form and less like coming back in rather than completely taking off. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. I think those of us who do have a tendency to sort of go out, we need to come back now. So just going to suggest that wherever you are, if you have your hands on a table or on the floor, to actually give some pressure into that surface so you can feel your bones, and push a little bit, just like the little mini push-ups. And if you've got your feet on the floor or your pelvis or something, give yourself some resistance against the supporting surfaces that comes back into your core, so that you can feel your bones, your muscles, it sometimes will also help to put your head on the floor, or just even with a palm of your hand to press against your hairline, and to ground your head and come back into the state of being an earthling and an Adam in connection with Adama, the earth. Bones being the densest, earthiest tissue in the body. And we did a lot of fluid today, and then we got more into wind and air and spirit. So now we want to come back to earth and bone and blood, the density of blood, densest fluid. And maybe just making a little bit of ha, 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 ha. I am here, Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Strong sounds from your ha, pelvis, ha, ha, ho, ha. Yeah, and then just coming back and bringing your two hands together and kneading your palms a little bit and pressing them against each other, reconnecting through the right and left sides of the body. So, and the best thing to do then, if you want to continue doing this to reground, might be to take a walk and or eat something. How are you doing, Rhonda?
Hineni.
You feeling a little more here, or?
Yeah, no, I feel more here.
Okay, and you might need to do more.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, great. So thank you, everybody. This was just wonderful. I really love the smallness of us today, even though I know that more people will be looking at the recording. It was really a treat to just have us be together too, and sending greetings and love to everyone who wasn't able to make it today. and just invite you to unmute and say our Shavua Tovs to one another, and send Carola to bed.
Yes, yes.
Good
But
night.
thank
Hello,
you.
Joe.
Thank you.
Shavua
Yeah.
tov, everyone.
Yeah.
Shavua tov.
Shavua Tov.
Thank you,
Oh,
Rivkala.
Thank
I
you,
love you,
Rivka.
Diane.
That was so beautiful and so prepared us for this next part.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Shavua
all.
tov.
Thank you both.
Everyone.
Good night. Goodbye. Good afternoon.
Bye. Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Sweet dreams.
Yeah.